Welcome students. This is Jaideep Manocha, Associate Professor, Department of Information Technology, Arya College of Engineering and Information Technology, Jaipur. This e-lecture is for students of final year Information Technology. Subject is software testing and validation, and topic is accessibility testing. So let us start. So here you can see the definition that verifying the product usability for physically challenged people is called accessibility testing. As we have discussed in last lecture that there is one more category of people known as physically disabled people. That means those are not able to see properly, those are not able to move properly, those are not able to hear properly. That means hearing impaired, mobility impaired, and vision impaired people. Doesn't matter they are partial or complete. We have to provide good usability options to them. Then we use a special kind of technique which is known as accessibility testing. So in accessibility testing, we have a lot of tools to provide a good usability to these kind of people. These tools are basically known as assistive technologies or accessibility tools. So let us talk further about accessibility testing. Basically, this is another part of usability testing. Accessibility testing is subset of usability testing. You can see point number 2 here. In point number 3, there is a very important thing that how we can do this. So accessibility testing can be provided by two means. First point you can see by basic accessibility. The second point is by product accessibility. So students, when we talk about basic accessibility, it is related to the underlying infrastructure, but the second one is related to standards and guidelines. So let us start with the basic accessibility first. Again, I repeat that accessibility testing we provide by two means. One is basic accessibility and the second one is product accessibility. So let us start the basic accessibility. What is basic accessibility? Students, basic accessibility is provided by the hardware and operating system of the computer. And when we talk in detail, then we'll say that all the input and output devices and their accessibility options, that means the options those are used to access these input and output devices. We can categorize these under one is keyboard accessibility as a input option, and the second one is screen accessibility as an output option, and some other accessibility options are there. So concerning basic accessibility technique, we will talk about keyboard, screen, and some other options. So let us talk about the first option, that is keyboard accessibility techniques first. So students, as we know that keyboard is a very most complicated device for vision and mobility impaired users. Hence it received plenty of attention till today. That means a lot of work has been done on that. Some of the accessibility improvements are already available. I think you are aware about one option that I have written here in the third point. Example is the little protrusion available on the top of F and J keys that gives a feel and helps in aligning fingers for typing to physically disabled people. Basically, this protrusion is a kind of projection which helps to the physically disabled people. That means the option that a physically disabled people want to use will be zoomed. Okay, some more examples are sticky keys, filter keys, toggle keys, sound keys, arrow keys. So what these are? Let's see the first option, sticky keys. Let us take an example to understand this. I think you are aware about the operation control and delete. I know that a very simple user who is using computer is also aware about this option. We can take use of this option. That means control plus alt plus delete can be used for a lot of things like locking, unlocking the machine, shutdown, and bringing up the task manager. So sometimes this keyboard sequence is very much complicated for the users. Those are without disability. That means I am a normal person and I am pressing control alt and delete, but due to the distances between these keys, it is typical. So when it is typical for a normal person, then obviously it is typical for a physically disabled person. So sticky key is one very good feature that will be reducing this complexity. So when sticky feature is enabled, then Control and Alt keys are pressed once and released by the user before pressing the delete key. So what will going to happen? I repeat again that if you are enabling the sticky feature, then Control and Alt key will be pressed once and released by the user before pressing the delete key. This is sticky feature. So this will allow a single finger operation to complete the sequence. So it will be very simple for the people. Those are physically disabled as well as for you also. So let us take the second option into account, that is filter key. Filter keys are the keys when they are pressed for more than a particular duration. Okay, then what they are going to do, they are going to perform a very specific operation. So what this specific operation is? As we know that we are going to press a key, if we are pressing a key for a long duration of time, then repetition of this key or the character on the key will be there on the screen. That means when keys are pressed for more than a particular duration, they are assumed to be repeated. Okay. So sometimes this troubles physically challenged users. Why? Because they are not able to move properly, hear properly, and see properly. Then this repetition, they have to remove this repetition. Then how they can do this? So because they are no fast users, they are not fast as us. So we can use filter keys for them. Filter keys will help in either stopping the repetition completely or slowing down the repetition. That means, let's say one key is pressed for a long duration of time and filter key option is enabled. Then the repetition of the character typed on the screen or character printed on this screen, that means the key will not be repeated as fast. Okay, so filter key is one of the best option. Second one, next is our toggle keys. When toggle keys are enabled, the information typed may be different from what the user desires. As for example, in a typical word processing package, you are aware about insert key. Okay, the insert key is a toggle key. You know that, I know that. If it is a normal setting, that means if its normal setting is there, then characters are inserted. When the key is pressed once are released, characters will be inserted. It goes into a replace mode. Okay. So wherein the typed characters overwrite what is already there, then vision impaired users will find it difficult to know the status of these toggle keys, that either it is inserting or in replacing mode. So to solve this problem, we use toggle key sound. To hear the toggle key word means toggle key sound. That if toggle keys are in use, then a sound will be there. So it will help the vision impaired users and they can disable the toggle key if they want, and if they don't want, then enabling will be continued. Okay, so please consider the third option, toggle keys, as toggle key sound keys. Okay, now one option is more there, that is fourth option, sound keys. To help vision impaired users, there is one more mechanism that pronounces each character. That means when you will type a character, okay, it will pronounce the printed character on the key, and when they are hit on the keyboard, the sound will be continuing. Clear? In some operating system, this feature is already available as a part of narrator utility. Okay, narrator is a software component. So in this utility, this is already available. One more option is there. You can see at the end, arrow keys to control keys. So these arrow keys are going to control some other devices. Arrow keys are basically available on the keyboard, and for physically disabled people, okay, we use arrow keys to control mouse, because as we know that one category is mobility impaired users. Those are having problems in moving the mouse. So if this feature is enabled, then such user will be able to use the keyboard arrow keys for mouse movements. So the two buttons of the mouse and their operations, you can operate from the arrow keys. Okay, so this will be very simple for these users. Let us talk about the fifth option, that is narrator. Narrator is basically a utility which is giving you audio feedback. For example, it may pronounce the event, that when they are executed by the users, any event is there, then the narrator will pronounce the same event. Okay, read out the characters types, notify the system events by making a differentiating sound, okay, differentiated sound, and so on. So this provides the sound equivalent for keyboard and system events. So this feature is considered as one of the very important significant utility used by accessibility testing. Okay, so it is going to increase the accessibility of a product in a very high manner. Clear? So this is all about keyboard accessibility. You can go for the further studies of sticky keys, filter keys, toggle keys, sound keys, narrators, and arrow keys to control the mouse on internet. Okay. So now we take the next option, that is screen accessibility, into account. Before that, I'll discuss that we can have some more options for the accessibility testing. Joysticks are also there that we are going to take into account after the next slide, the next page, that is screen accessibility. So what is screen accessibility? A screen accessibility should be very sophisticated. That means it should be easily accessed by the physically impaired people. So as you know, the screen word is there. So many features are there to assist the vision and mobility impaired people, but it is not going to help the people those are hearing impaired. So what we can have, or what till date we are having some features like visual sound options, caption enabling options, soft keyboards, high contrasts. So what these options are, let us take the first option into account, that is visual sound. So students, visual sound is basically the waveform or graph form of the sound. These visual effects inform the user of the events that happens on system using a particular screen. So it is again a very good option. So next option is caption enabling. So we use basically caption enabling for multimedia. Okay. All multimedia speech and sound can be enabled with text equivalents. That means you have to write a caption in which you are going to write a text that is going to display the equivalent multimedia operation. Okay, so whenever there is a speech or sound, these options will be displayed. So again, these options are going to help the vision and mobility impaired people, not the hearing impaired people. If soft keyboard is there, the third option, then some of the mobility impaired and vision impaired users find it easier to use pointing devices instead of the keyboard. Let's say they are using joystick. Okay, and a soft keyboard is there. So it is very easy to type any character by using the pointing device on the soft keyboard, that is virtual keyboard, as you are using in a online banking system. So this is again a good option. Okay, and one more option is there, that if you provide easy reading, then how you can do this? Easy reading means the people are able to read the text easily. So as we know that vision impaired people especially are having problems in recognizing some colors. Maybe a person may be having color blindness, and maybe possible they are not able to recognize the size of font in the menu items. So basically a toggle option is provided generally by the operating system to switch to a high contrast mode. That means a toggle option is there in operating system. If it is enabled, then it will switch the screen on a high contrast mode, and in high contrast the characters will be read easily by the users. This mode is very pleasing. Okay, see, so the mode uses very pleasing colors and font sizes. Okay, then this is a very good option again to enhance the screen accessibility. So let us consider one more option that we cannot put into the keyboard accessibility or screen accessibility option. That is, you can see the first point is joystick. So joystick is one more option that is going to help the physically disabled people. Again, you can use the same option that I have discussed in the last page, that is pointing device like joystick with keyboard, etc. So these are some other accessibility features, and these are all part of basic accessibility testing. So now let us take the next accessibility testing, that is product accessibility. This is a very special thing. So what is product accessibility? It is not related to the hardware and operating system. Okay. So what is it? Basically, product accessibility is related to standards and guidelines. So what do you mean by standards and guidelines? You know that accessibility standards such as 508 World Wide Web Consortium standard, as you know that all these are available on the internet. Okay, so what these standards are saying? Basically, there is a lot of information available on various websites on accessibility standards and requirements that can be used to collect the requirements for accessibility. Okay, so these are basically guidelines that how you can help the physically disabled people to get a good product feeling. Fine. So what are these requirements? We can take example of some requirements. Those are already available. You can see the image. Sample requirement first. Text equivalents have to be provided for audio, video, and picture images. So this is as well as a requirement as well as a need. Okay, so that means basically this is the need of physically disabled people. So it is already mentioned in these standards 508 and W3C. You can take example of some more sample requirements. Here is a requirement number 2. You can see that documents and fields should be organized so that they can be read without requiring a particular resolution on the screen and tablets. This is known as style sheet. That means particular style sheet should be there. You can take example of one more kind of requirement. This is again a sample requirement that says that whatever information you are conveying on the screen with color should be available without color also. Okay, one more is there. You can see flicker rate should be reduced, and if text is moving speedily, you have to reduce it. Flash should not be there, and blinking text should not be there, because these are the things those are going to give a pain to the hearing and mobility impaired and vision impaired people. So this is again a sample requirement that should be considered when accessibility requirements are gathered by the developers. Fine. So we can take one more example, that physical movement should be reduced. Fine. That is reduce physical movement requirements for the users when designing the interface. That means you are designing interface, and if a disabled people, impaired people is going to use that particular interface, and for to use it, it has to take a lot of moves, okay, on its sitting, then it's not good. Okay, so reduce physical movements requirements for the users when designing the interface and allow advocate time for user responses. That means you have to insert a proper time gap between the user response and between the operation desired by the user. Okay, so these are the sample requirements. There is a lot of material to discuss, so I'll instruct you that you all go in depth and study in detail. You can see some more things here. Caller as a method of identification, you can see on this screen. So let us read the text. Press the green button to start the program. You can use the red button to stop the running program. Okay, so this is the thing, this is the screen which is going to help the people those are not able in terms of colors. Okay, not only users with low vision, but those are having good vision who may have problems in identifying the numerous colors and their combinations that are available, and you know that this is known as color blindness. So hence products using color text, color picture, color screens should not use color as the sole method of identification. This is the thing. Okay, you can take example of this picture, that here you can see there are two colors, green and red. These are used as a method of identification. So maybe possible this is very much useful for some people but not for others. So we have to consider it also. So what will be the right approach here? The right approach here will be to retaining the color and name the buttons appropriately, which is done here. Okay, in this image you can see buttons are also there and color is also there. So this is a considerable thing. Fine. One more example is there in which we have taken 4 fields as a 4 corners. Fine, a screen with 4 fields in the corners is there. So this is again a thing that can be considered while we are using product usability. So students, as a summary, we can say that there is a special technique known as assistive technology or accessibility testing for the users. Those are hearing impaired, vision impaired, and mobility impaired. and this is basically achieved by considering two things into account. One is the basic accessibility that is related to the hardware and operating system of the product, that is your keyboard accessibility, screen accessibility, etc. And one more is related to product accessibility, which is fully touching the standards and guidelines available. Okay, so this is all about accessibility testing. So in our next lecture, we are going to consider the next part, that what are the test roles for usability. Okay, that means we have different people, and what a particular person is going to do, that means what role it has to be play, that we are going to discuss in our next lecture as a last topic of the unit number 4 of the subject software testing and validation. Till then, thank you.